Welcome, thanks for coming. I don't know if anyone else has ever spoken at one of these things before, but the speaker schedule comes out a bit later than just the general schedule, and I know when I saw the general schedule, I'd blocked out all of Friday morning because there's no way I'm getting up early on the Friday morning after data night out. And then the speaker schedule came out, so I was pretty happy with that. Not, thanks Tableau. I started at a company, Transurban, just over 3 years ago, and I think it's a fairly stereotypical, or it's a common story. Company with lots and lots of data, lots of really talented people, but struggling to get value out of their data. A lot of these guys, and I guarantee you all see this, they run standard reports out of siloed systems, they extract them into Excel, they VLOOKUP macros in Excel, sometimes they write them to access databases, and they do all of their standard reporting. And Transurban was exactly the same 3.5 years ago, and we needed to get smarter. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we took that journey from what I would say is a zero adoption of an analytical environment to 18 months later, I argue we're an enterprise adoption of Tableau and an analytics environment. We have 1 in 3 people now that actively, so every month, are accessing our Tableau environment to report and do analysis. I should also add, we did this with a team of 2 people as well, and it's still a team of 2. I'll get a new one next week, I think. We've got a new one starting, which is great. So there's another me. So I had a data engineer doing all of our data ingestion, and myself effectively being a data guy and being the business-facing person. So over the next 45 minutes, I'm going to talk about that journey and how we went from zero to enterprise. Along the way, I'm going to call out our 2 main challenges, and they're challenges that one of them's a technical challenge that everyone has to overcome. The other challenge is a human challenge that I've heard quite a few other presentations over the last few days talk about, and that's the ability to engage the business. And that's still, if you walk away from this, that's the main thing I hope that you take away, is that business engagement aspect is the most important. I'm going to talk about some of the cool data that we have. I'm going to show you some of the insights we're getting from that data. And also, I guess, take away how we're trying to keep our environment sustainable. My name's Mick Spence. I'm called Michael when I'm in trouble, which is at the moment. I've worked in the analytics environment for just over 20 years, which makes me feel a little bit old. And I'm a pretty humble sort of guy, and I'm Australian, probably. But I've worked in lots of other analytical environments, and I'm pretty proud of what we've managed to do at Transurban, which is why I'm proud to sort of stand up here and tell the story, and I hope some people learn from it. Transurban, okay, we're an Australian company. We started just over 20 years ago, and we're listed in the top 15 in the Australian Stock Exchange. You might recognise some of the brands here in the US. We have only 2,000 employees, so by value we're quite a wealthy company, but 2,000 employees is not a huge employee base. We've got about 180 employees in North America. Our primary purpose is to build, operate and manage toll roads. Okay, normally when I say that, people throw eggs at me and things like that. But people don't always understand why toll roads exist, and I'm just going to give you the 30-second spiel of why toll roads exist. And our cities are growing, and we all know we all get stuck in traffic, and it's crap. So governments know they have to continue to grow infrastructure. But governments don't have a budget, they don't have so much money to spend. You've got to spend money on defence, you've got to spend money on education and health. There's only so much money to go around, and they spend some money on infrastructure. But sometimes they choose to allocate that money in other areas, and then they engage companies like Transurban or toll road operators to work with financial institutions and acquire capital to then go and build roads. And by doing that, they've still got to get their money back. I guess the advantage of that is that rather than the whole everyone within this state having to pay taxes to pay back the government because they've spent money on infrastructure, it's only the people that use the road now in a toll road that actually pay that money back. So that's kind of the advantage of it. We do spend a lot of time building roads, and as a result of that, we have a lot of construction, and so we're not actual builders ourselves, but we contract that work out. And we've got over 10,000 employees or contractors working currently on projects as well. Transurban, it's a relatively new company, 20 years old. We're quite innovative, which is good. It's a good place to work, and so we invest a fair bit in tech. We have around 40% of our employees have some sort of tech role out of the 2,000. I should add, actually, I'm a tech person, and my role doesn't have to live in IT. It sort of can live anywhere, but I just want to preface that I work in technology. So quickly, some of our roads, I'll try and get through these ones quick. We own lots of roads in Australia, and it all started with, at the top right, CityLink in Melbourne, which is my hometown. So it was about 20 years ago. About 7 years ago, we entered into the North American market. We bought or built the 95 Express Lane in Virginia, and a few years after that, the 495 Express Lane, also in Virginia. I don't know if you guys know that. 2 years ago, we bought a road, the A25 in Montreal, Canada. And our plan is to try and grow in these markets. We've sort of outdone Australia. There's not many roads left to build in Australia. So just specifically looking here, so if there's anyone from Washington, you might recognise some of these roads. So the 95 and 495 are the roads that go into Washington, DC, and in Montreal, the A25 there. So that takes people from northern Montreal, would that be right, into the commercial and residential area of Montreal. So the 95, so is everyone familiar with what an express lane is? I don't know. So in Australia, they're not common. So yeah, the 95 express lane is a dual. We switch it at peak hour. We could go one way or the other way. And what's the other one? The 495 is a dual lane. Okay. I talked about how we invest. We're building a lot of projects at the moment. So there's a couple of key projects here that you guys, and these are billion-dollar projects. The 395 Express Lanes, which I think is opening up this weekend, last I heard, which is, my understanding, is one of the busiest roads in the world. It's the road that goes past the Pentagon into DC. So we're opening up an extra lane and some express lanes into that this weekend. So that's kind of cool. Data. So why is data important to us? We have lots. I mean, there's companies out there who have lots of data. We have lots of data too, and it's kind of cool data. I find it interesting because we're a toll road operator. Our data's real. It's about roads, and kind of you can live it and feel it. So our two primary purposes for using data is to make our roads more efficient. We don't build roads, and we don't want people to pay to drive in a car park. Right? No one wins out of that. We don't win out of that. You guys don't win out of that. So we spend a lot of time and effort analysing our data to try and make our roads more efficient. And we also pride ourselves a little bit on how safe our roads are. Our roads are monitored 24/7. We have control rooms across all of our roads, so it looks a bit like, probably not like NASA, but lots of big screens, and they're all being monitored 24/7. And we offer free roadside assistance, so if you break down on our roads, we fix it. As an example, in Melbourne, on CityLink, which is, I'll refer to CityLink often, it's our first road, we have as many incident response vehicles on a 13-mile, 22-kilometre section of road in Melbourne. So we have the same number of incident response vehicles as the rest of the state. So we invest in making our roads safe. Okay. All right, so hopefully I've given you a bit of a background now on Transurban. I'm going to talk about, I mentioned at the start, there's two challenges, and this is challenge number one. And challenge number one, everyone has this challenge, and it's really solved by technology. We all have siloed data. We all have systems, and they're designed for a specific reason. They all do a really good job at what they're designed to do, but you're not getting the value of analytics unless you can combine them in some way. So most companies would have an ERP system, manage your finance and HR. We have one of those, but we have some specific systems related to us, and I'm going to go into some of them a little bit. Our tolling system, because we toll people, we have tolling systems. And our roadside traffic sensors is an interesting one. We get a lot of this data in near real time. And I mentioned up there the Bureau of Meteorology, we get weather data in near real time. And I'll go into it a little more. The roadside traffic sensors, every, 600 feet? 1,600 feet, 500 metres. It's hard for me to convert. We have sensors in roads. So you can imagine the amount of data we're getting from all of these systems is quite, and I'll talk about those sensors in a sec. This is an example of a toll point gantry. So I find, maybe I'm just a bit nerdy, I find this stuff cool. Picture yourself as you drive under a toll point, driving your car. We've got systems that take a photo of the front number plate, photo of your rear number plate, we take a photo of the top of you. We measure you as a vehicle. We capture how fast you're going. What else do we do? We classify you, whether you're a car, whether you're a motorbike, whether you're a truck. All of this stuff happens instantaneously. And think, we might have 5 lanes of road, and you've got 5 cars going under, 5 vehicles going under a gantry at the same time. We have to correlate all of this information, this front photo, this rear photo from this lane, and all of this together. So it's lots of cool information. We get this in near real time. This is what it looks like in a control room. And it's a bit fuzzy, I apologise, but so at the top right, it's a photo of a truck, or a photo of a truck and a car from the top. The really fuzzy diagram on the bit over to the left, which has got some purple and green and yellow, that's measuring the size, height of the vehicle. And then we've got a 3D image of the vehicle, and there's a whole bunch of log information. So this is happening. Imagine when this is peak hour traffic, there's thousands of cars flying through. There's lots of really cool information. The one problem with toll point information is that their toll points are miles and miles apart. So if we want to do traffic analysis, it's kind of good, but it's not enough information. So we have these, we call them loops. There's lots of different technologies that have sensors under the road. So this is you can see those little lines underneath that car. They're little sensors that run across each lane, and we count cars, we measure speed. So we have these every 1,600 feet, every 500 metres in our road. So this is now starting to get lots of data. It's really starting to get, if we supplement that with our toll point data, we're getting a good picture of what's happening on our roads, okay? Comes to challenge number 2, and this is the most important challenge. So we built a platform, and we used Tableau, and Amazon Redshift was our tech decision to store all of this information. And that works for us, it's good. Redshift's fast. So we built this platform, which is great. Now we've got to try and get it out to people. So challenge number 2 is all around engaging the business. And this is the most difficult one, challenge to solve. This is where you need people with soft skills, and this is I think the hardest person to try and find. So you get a lot of good tech people, and you get a lot of good business people. Having someone in the middle is the key here. And this is the role that I played. And then my first challenge was, cool, I've got this database full of really cool data. How do I try and engage the business over here? So there's all these, as I said at the start, there's a lot of really smart people that are building extracts out of their source systems and things like that. They're the people you're engaged. They're sort of data literate people. And it is a challenge. A lot of people don't like change. So they're the people I targeted. So Transurban had quite a few of them, so I was kind of lucky. So I engaged these people and I started building trust. And it comes to the second point here, demystifying. As a techo, we're very good at lots of jargon and lots of acronyms and things like that. And I know, it annoys me when I speak to someone, not a finance person, but I hate when people talk finance lingo. And it's the same when I hate when tech people talk tech lingo to non-tech people. You've got to dumb that down, simplify it. So I find that an important approach to start to build trust. And I also talk to people about what Tableau can do and what it can't do. We had people trying to build very pixel perfect sort of invoice type reports, and Tableau's probably not necessarily the right tool for that. And you're allowed to say, nah, can't do that. And this starts to build that trust. And lastly, and this is probably the most important point here, is to solve real problems. I've seen in a lot of organisations where They build this great data lake or a big database platform, and they're trying to solve really complex problems. And we were trying to do that at one stage, but it didn't work. What worked for us is people just want to know how many cars there are on the road. Such a simple problem. And what we were doing, remember I showed you all of those loops with all that massive amounts of data coming in. We were using Excel to try and report that, and we can get half a day's worth of transactions on an Excel workbook before you blow it up. So this was really simple for us to do year-on-year analysis with billions of rows of data. Redshift's fast, Tableau's great. All of a sudden I could do year-on-year analysis of traffic volumes in certain areas. And this is just a real problem they wanted to solve, and it's not complicated. So what I did is I put together a little video. It was a 7-minute video, and I was kind of lucky. As I said, we have lots of cool data. And it described an accident that happened. I'll go into this in a little more detail in a sec. An accident that happened on our roads, and it had a large impact to traffic. Because all of a sudden now I've got accident information in our platform, I've got traffic information in our platform. What I did, this story that I built it on the fly in Tableau and talked to the video, told this story of an accident happening, what's the impact on traffic, what was the impact financially. We had financial information. Then I could also relate it to customers, so we know who's on the roads at that time. So what I did, I pulled on lots of different business units levers, and I put this 7-minute video together and sent it out, and it went viral. And that sort of opened people's eyes as to what analytics can do. I'll just talk about that video just quickly here. So this is a real visualisation that we built. This is Melbourne, where I live, and this is only one section of our road, and this is a pretty sort of standard day. So each of these little bubbles here indicate an incident, and an incident could be a breakdown or an accident, and you can see the different colours there indicate those sort of incident types. You have a look over on the far left, at 5:15, there was some congestion because of some media filming, and they weren't supposed to be there. There's a few orange breakdowns, people with flat tyres and things like that. But what stands out is that big green bubble, and the size of the bubble in this indicates the clearance time, and clearance time is a really important metric for us. We want to, as I said, we try and have safe roads, and we want to clear those roads so that congestion is not a problem. And so I had a look at what this big green bubble was, and we call it an awful story, but it was an awful story. So a truck was driving, and a truck had a load of offal in the back of it, and it was uncovered. So he was driving along our road, and a car cut him off, and he had to slam his brakes on. Unfortunately, he missed the car, but when he slammed his brakes on, the offal over the back, all over the road and all over the truck. So it was awful. They used, for what it's worth, they used heaps of kitty litter was the way to clean it up. So you can imagine massive clearance time. There's crap all over the road, kitty litter all over the road, trying to clear it all up. So this was an easy story to tell. It's interesting. It's made the press and things like that. So we had this incident information. So because now I've got this big platform that's got lots of traffic volume, I thought, let's have a look at what the impact on traffic is. So this is average traffic volume in a 30-second lot, in a 30-second spot by lane. And you can see that lane 1 at the time of the accident basically almost closed. And you can see the lag. It wasn't until, about 4 o'clock maybe, 4:30, till that lane started to flow again. And this might seem pretty simple, but this was impossible doing this in Excel because of the data volumes we have. And this was such a simple problem to solve, and all of a sudden the business's eyes are opening up. So when we compared that day before and day after, there's a clearly it shows that impact. Again, really simple solution to our problem. Now, at this stage now, analytics is starting to take off. People are getting it now. And so my job largely is to try and promote analytics into the business, be that evangelist, if you like. So now I'm buying more and more Tableau licenses, and I'm teaching more and more people how to use Tableau. And this is a real example that we started to get real value and real insight out of. This is again in Melbourne. We've got it's called the Balti Bridge. And Well, I love our Tableau, because being a road operator, Tableau's very good at geospatial stuff, and so we do a lot of geospatial analysis, so it really suits us perfectly. And don't you love now the heat map? So we knew that there were, or we suspected, and we could prove it now, that there are lots of nose-to-tail accidents. And on our roads, we don't have roads where you can have a head-on. We've got barriers in between them. So the most common accident that causes an injury is a nose-to-tail. So we're pretty conscious. We're trying to resolve any of those hotspots. And you can see we had a really big hotspot over the top of this bridge, Balti Bridge. So what happens when you come off this bridge, I'll try and explain it, there's 3 exits. One goes into the Melbourne city, another one goes out to like southeastern suburbs, doesn't matter, another one goes off to another direction. So what's happening, people are driving over this bridge and there's signs up there and they're going, oh God, I don't know which lane to get in. And so you can imagine this, I'm looking at this, the person in front of me is looking at this, and then they, oh no, I'm supposed to be here, put their foot on the brake, bang, 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 bang. So causing lots of problems. So we saw this and clearly there's a hotspot. So that caused us to create some actions out of this. So we started putting signage back further, giving people more warning. We put signage on the roads so that when there's a gap, you can actually see on the road without having to look up. We also made subtle changes to the roads. We sort of, one of the corners was a little sharp, so we sort of flattened that out. And you can see, we did that in late 2017. You can see, so 2017 started to get better, and 2018 it's almost gone. And it's the same thing now. So it's good that, what I love about analytics is sometimes you can just build standard reports that answer that known question. But this is an example where we actually, we explore data and we get insight and take action and make a change and make a difference. So by this stage, analytics is going nuts. I'm going to show you an example. It's going to be a little hard to explain. I'll do my best, called traffic flow breakdown. So this is massive amounts. This is billions and billions of rows of data that underpin this. I talked about our sensors on our roads. So this was unimaginable 3 years ago. What I'm going to try and explain here is that traffic breaks down. If you're driving on a road and you're the only person in your lane in a 30-second period, there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to drive at the speed limit. So I've got this in kilometres an hour, so let's pretend that 60 mile an hour is the speed limit. If you're the only car in that lane, there's nothing stopping you. You're probably driving faster than 60 mile an hour, but there's nothing stopping you from driving 60 mile an hour. If there's 2 cars in a 30-second period, you're still probably going to drive at that speed limit. 10 cars, 20 cars, where is that limit where all of a sudden now you can't sustain that speed limit because it's too congested? That number is where traffic breaks down. That's an important number for us. We don't want traffic to break down. When traffic breaks down, it's hard to recover again. So, and we could never understand, we can never work out that number without having this data and having a platform to visualise it. So what I'm going to show you here is on the x-axis across the bottom there, you've got number of vehicles in a lane in a 30-second period. And on the y-axis there is the average speed, okay? Now the different colours, so every dot there is a minute within an hour, okay? And the orange dots are in 2017 and purple in 2018 and green this year. Okay, so at the moment, if you look at the top, it's not very clear, it's around 0 AM at midnight, okay? So at midnight, there's not many cars, and you can see that we're probably on average sort of 3 cars every 30 seconds in a lane, okay? So I'm gonna click a little animation here, and it's going to go through as time progresses until it gets to 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm going to loop it through it twice. So if you miss it the first time, you'll see it the second time. Okay, so that's midnight. Then we get 1 o'clock, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now I'll do it again. And you'll see when traffic starts to break down, which means the average speed has dropped. Okay, so as volume increases, it can only get to a certain spot and then traffic drops. And you can see here, we're performing poorly compared to 2017. So 2017, the breakdown, or the average speed, the worst there is at 60 kilometres an hour. That is 40 miles an hour, okay, in peak hour traffic. 2018 was diabolical, and 2019 we're getting better. It's because we're getting better because we're making changes to our roads. We can actually stop the volume of, or slow the volume of traffic onto our roads, and by doing that, we spread out the load, if that makes sense. So being able to visualise this sort of stuff, 2 years ago was impossible. But it's another example how we're making changes based on massive amounts of data and using Tableau to optimise our roads. One thing that, I'm going to talk about this, one thing, you can read these, they're kind of amusing. One thing that I've tried to encourage people with the use of Tableau. Tableau is very good at building reports and dashboards, and our organisation, because we had those guys had building extracts and then building reports for management, they're building reports, and that's okay. Management love reports and dashboards, and that's good. It answers that known question. But I think Tableau's sweet spot is not just building reports and dashboards. It's all about the ability to do analysis quickly. So this was an example, and a real example, where we were just interested. We just did some text analytics. And so when an incident response vehicle goes out to an incident, the incident response officer goes back to the office at the end of that incident and fills out a report, and it goes into the system, which comes into us. And we've just mined some of the text, some of the comments that they've put in. And we were blown away a little bit by, this is on that 13-mile section of road. It's not that long. We have 90 a year, so nearly 2 a week, 2 incidents that we're involving a mobile phone. And every time there's one of these incidents, we've got to close a lane, we've got to have an incident response vehicle go out there, we go and this takes time and stops traffic, and it's insane. So 2 times a week on a 13-mile section of road, we have to close lanes for people having interviews on the side of the road, or what else? This is a funny one, the top right one. These are all true stories. A guy was having a fight with his wife in the car, and he grabbed her phone and threw it out the window. And so they stopped, had to go, and it was into a garden bed. They had stopped and were searching through the garden bed. And while this is happening, traffic can't run. But we also have some fun. There's a spider. So this is not really anything we're going to ever action, but it's kind of interesting. 3 times a year on that same section of road, we have to close lanes because of a spider. Are there any Aussies in here? So I had to change this because I think at the top left, motorists terrorised by spider and spider raided by police in Australia. We have raid, but we have Mortein. I don't know if any Aussies in here will Morteined it, but anyway, it's just a brand. But yeah, it's true. There's all these crazy things that happen on the road that you don't even realise, and they close lanes. But this is, again, the ability to do analysis. This is not a pre-canned report or anything like that. We can do this type of analysis with our data platform. This is one thing I do love about being in the data industry, is that things are always evolving and always changing, and I like change. And some of that change is just not within your own organisation, it's external impacts. So we had, and this is relatively recent, and it's a true story, all of these are true. Our incident response team just had this perception that the number of incidents on our roads due to cyclists, and these are push bike cyclists, not motorcyclists, seem to be increasing recently. And we're a toll road operator, the speed limit's 60 mile an hour, 100k an hour. And so cyclists and cars going 100k an hour don't really work that well. So this is like a 30-second piece of analysis. Let's drag out incidents by cyclists bang over time, and you clearly see that there's been an increase in cyclists. Uber Eats started then. And this is not a criticism of Uber Eats. When an Uber Eats cyclist or a food delivery person makes their delivery, they open up Google and they say, what's the quickest route from my restaurant to the customer? And it always says, go on the quickest route to the toll road. Jump on the bike on the toll road. Okay. And so, it's not something we'd planned, but this is prompting an action. We're having discussions with a lot of these food delivery companies now to say you probably shouldn't be riding, because this has a massive impact, because again, we have to close lane to protect the safety of the cyclists and our motorists. So yeah, it's interesting how we're impacted by external forces. This is something that's we're a bit passionate about, connected and autonomous vehicles, so we call them cabs. So most people would be aware that autonomous vehicles is an emerging trend. And because we are innovative, we've spent lots of money and lots of time and effort working with car manufacturers and trying to understand the good bits and the bad bits of autonomous vehicles and how they're going to impact us. So a lot of our trials are based on how well do these cars read our lines and our signs and things like that. And we've collected lots and lots of data. Again, it's all in our platform that we feed off to our car manufacturers. So this is, for me, it's a bit exciting going forward. Our data volumes are just going to explode even further. So by this stage now, our platform's like fully adopted, and it literally took 18 months, and we're getting really valuable insight out of it. And again, I need to stress that, first challenge was a technical challenge, which we resolved with Tableau and Amazon Redshift. And our second challenge, as I said, is more that soft skill type of challenge. The 4 key things, so now we're at a stage where we've got the platform up and running, we need to keep it sustainable, and we still have a lot of work to do to nail this, but 4 things I want you guys to take away from this aspect of it is, I'm not a huge fan of actually saying, I don't know why, I've said it today a lot, and I think it's just, it's a common industry thing. I say I'm from IT, and we say IT in the business, and I hate that, because why is IT not part of the business? Why is finance in the business but IT is not? So it's like it's a symbiotic sort of relationship. We're all business units. We all work together. You can't live without one or the other. So I don't know why we always say there's always this barrier between IT and the business, but you've got to break those barriers essentially, and you've got to maintain that relationship between IT and the business. So that's an important tip. There. So I actually say it's interesting because in my organisation, it might be different for you guys, Tableau is not a IT tool at all. In fact, I use the example, it's like Excel. Excel is not an IT tool, it's an everyone tool. So I see Tableau as an everyone tool. And that's the sort of message I try and promote within our organisation. Another key thing, and I do still see a lot of organisations do this, but this is a 1990s thing. Don't build IT report writing factories anymore. Don't build report writing factories anymore. It's so important to promote data literacy within organisations. So my job, I spend a lot of time working in each of the business units and try to build analytical capabilities within each of the business units. So our Tableau server environment, we have a number of sites. Every business unit has a site. And they have their own site administrators, and that's their responsibility. It's not a centralised responsibility within IT or anything like that. Creating a sharing culture is important. So we have a community of practice, so whether you call it a centre of excellence or community of practice, it's like one of these. It's like having a conference, if you like, within, we're all here because we love data and we love this stuff. Same thing within each organisation. So every 6 weeks I run a community of practice, and people, I just run it for 90 minutes, and people, I never have to struggle to fill a slot of people wanting to put their hand up to share what they're doing. And I think sometimes work becomes too serious, and there's not enough fun things to do. And I use this as a bit of a vehicle to just relax people, have some fun, and people love to share, and people are proud of what they do. So that's an important aspect. And keeping up the training, this is something that I am still struggling with because it's still a team of 2, and we've got 150 desktop users and nearly 1,000 consumers on Tableau server, and the team of me being the only Tableau guy, keeps me busy. And the challenge we have is I get requests every week for 2 or 3 new desktop users, and you can't just give them a desktop license and not give them something to start running. And so for us, that's one of our challenges, but we've got some partnerships in place to try and alleviate that. But it's important to keep people trained. This is where we are now. So I bought my first license in July, August, I think, 2016. This is server, or desktop and server. And we plodded along quite well for a little while. We were on a named user server license at that stage. And what we found is that was a barrier for people building solutions, because they knew if I wanted to deploy that solution, we had to go and buy some more server user licenses. And so it was as I said, it was a barrier for adoption. So we bought a core license. I don't think Tableau sort of necessarily recommend core licenses at the moment, but we bought a core license. So in a way, it's sort of as much as you can eat type of license. And as soon as we did that, you can see that's that orange line. As soon as we did that, adoption went through the roof. So this was taken a couple of weeks ago. We had 994 server consumers. For an organisation that has 2,000 employees, that's half the organisation, have access to content within our Tableau environment. So remember, it's a team of one or a team of two people effectively doing this. So this is why I can confidently say that we've now got an enterprise adoption of our analytics platform. I do have to, that's some of our teams. So I run a Makeover Monday competition, trying to run them every quarter. This was the one last month, and we had our winners and some of our sponsors there. They're kind of cool. And again, that's just another example how we've got to try and make this a little bit fun. Okay, so 3 years ago, again, Transurban extracting data into spreadsheets. And now I'm hoping I've shown you that we're now getting really valuable insight out of that data. And again, I have to stress, it's the most important aspect of that is the people side of it. Getting people to engage, getting people to talk, getting people to share. So we broke down, a lot of those barriers between tech and the business units. And we've got a really good community at the moment. As I said, we had a team of 1.5 or 2 people, but I wouldn't recommend doing it that way, but it is possible. So I hope that there's people in here that are possibly at the start of this journey, possibly at the end of this journey. And what I often like when I go to these sort of conferences is that even though I'm at the end of this journey, it's kind of good to hear other people that have gone through a similar journey, and you kind of feel, okay, I've done the right thing. I'm on that similar journey. There might be people that are halfway along this journey, and I hope you take something out of it. That's what I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks a lot for coming along. And if there's questions, I don't know if there's another slide after this. So 2 things. Questions? Happy for you to put your hand up and ask questions. Happy for you to come up and talk to me about questions. And don't forget to fill in the survey. So thanks, guys. Thank you.